Have you walked down a grocery store aisle lately? I mean, it is honestly wild. Almost everywhere you look, there's this giant, bold label screaming the word protein. It's in our cereal, it's in our coffee, it's baked into our granola bars. I've literally even seen it infused into bottled water. We're living in a true protein boom. And we've basically been conditioned to believe that when it comes to this specific macronutrient, more is just inherently better. We treat it like this ultimate consequence-free health hack. But as we're going to see in today's explainer, this cultural obsession, it might actually be setting us up for a massive metabolic backfire. So could the protein boom actually be aging us faster? I know, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right? We always equate protein with health, strength, and vitality. But for the vast majority of us, those of us who spend a good chunk of our day sitting at a desk or driving in a car, this constant high-level protein consumption is doing the exact opposite of what we want. We're going to unpack some groundbreaking new research today that strongly challenges our more is always better assumption. And we'll reveal why scaling back your protein intake might just be the secret to a longer, healthier life.
Section 1. A surprising longevity secret.
Okay, let's dive into this. We are looking at a massive new review published just recently in the Cell Press Blue Journal. Now, this isn't just some opinion piece. It's a sweeping, comprehensive analysis of decades of scientific evidence surrounding protein restriction in aging. Led by researcher Dudley Lamming and his colleagues at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, this review completely turns our modern dietary assumptions upside down. It suggests that many of us are actively over-consuming protein, and that scaling it back might actually unlock a surprising longevity secret. And to really appreciate the weight of these findings, you've got to look at the sheer scale of this research. Over 350 studies were analyzed to reach these conclusions. We're not talking about one isolated clinical trial here, or some single mouse study that might be a fluke. We're talking about hundreds of distinct, peer-reviewed papers spanning different methodologies, different populations, and decades of research. And they are all pointing toward a remarkably consistent biological truth about how our bodies process protein as we age. So what exactly did those 350-plus studies reveal? Well, the researchers uncovered a really clear, structured list of metabolic and anti-aging benefits tied directly to eating less protein. First up, a lower intake appears to significantly improve your overall metabolism. Second, it reduces systemic inflammation, which, as we know, is a massive driver of chronic disease. Third, it actually limits cellular damage by helping your cells maintain their normal, healthy functions. And finally, eating less protein activates specific biological pathways that are directly linked to healthier aging and a longer lifespan. It's kind of like flipping a switch in your body from growth at all costs to repair and maintain.
Section 2. The science of eating less.
When we talk about longevity and diet, the elephant in the room has historically always been calorie restriction. Scientists have known for a long time that if you severely restrict calorie intake, organisms generally live longer and have lower risks of age-related illnesses like cancer. The only problem, let's be real, starving yourself is absolutely miserable. For humans, it's practically impossible to maintain over the long term without, completely losing your mind. But here is the brilliant contrast. On one side, you have that impossible calorie restriction. On the other side, you have protein restriction. The researchers found that in earlier studies with flies and rodents, the animals lived significantly longer when they just consumed less protein, even if their overall calorie intake didn't drop at all. And recent human clinical trials are showing this exact same promise. People lowering their protein intake are losing weight and body fat, and they're improving their blood sugar, even while eating more total calories. It is a highly promising, vastly more practical alternative to starvation. Now, what's really interesting here is the biological mechanism making all of this happen. Meet FGF21. That stands for fibroblast growth factor 21. Don't worry, you don't need to memorize the long name, but you absolutely should understand what this hormone does. It's a vital longevity hormone that regulates blood sugar, raises energy expenditure, and actively reduces inflammation. And here's the real kicker. FGF21 naturally increases in your body when your protein intake falls. So by simply eating less protein, you're naturally signaling your body to produce more of this incredibly beneficial hormone. When we look at a direct comparison, the difference is stark. With a high protein intake, your FGF21 levels remain lower, leaving you at a much higher risk for inflammation and all the metabolic issues that come with it. But when you switch to a low protein intake, Your FGF21 levels become elevated. Your blood sugar regulation improves. In mouse studies, animals with these elevated levels of FGF21 actually lived longer than typical mice. And notably, this lifespan extending effect was particularly strong in males. We're now seeing these same FGF21 spikes occurring in humans when they just cut back on the protein shakes and the excessive meat consumption. The researchers also zeroed in on the building blocks of protein themselves. Specifically, they identified 3 amino acids: methionine, isoleucine, and valine. The data suggests that excessive intake of these specific amino acids plays a major role in driving the aging process. Why? Well, because when you flood your system with them, they activate biological pathways that constantly encourage growth. And sure, while growth sounds good on paper, if those pathways remain highly active all the time, they actually increase your risk of obesity, inflammation, and cellular aging. Sometimes your body just needs a break from growing so it can actually focus on repairing itself.
Section 3. Why athletes need more. Right about now, you might be experiencing some cognitive dissonance. I mean, if eating less protein is so great for longevity, why are we constantly bombarded with advice from health experts and fitness influencers telling us we need to eat more? Why is every trainer at the gym carrying around a shaker bottle? Well, get this. Just this year, updated U.S. dietary guidance actually increased their recommended daily protein consumption to 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That is nearly twice the previous recommended amount. So we have a major review telling us to eat less to live longer, and national guidance telling us to double up. How on earth do we reconcile this massive contradiction?
This quote from Dudley Lamming brilliantly illustrates the scientific tension here. He says, "It's absolutely crystal clear that there are benefits of protein to muscle growth and exercise response of active individuals. But because most people are relatively sedentary, many people are likely consuming more protein than they actually need, which probably has negative health consequences." And there it is. That's the missing link. Athletes who regularly undergo intense physical activity, they absolutely need that extra protein to rebuild muscle tissue. Their exercise literally directs that protein toward healthy muscle maintenance. But if you sit at a computer all day, your body doesn't need that excess building material. So instead, it just drives metabolic disease and aging. Section 4. Personalizing your protein needs. So the crucial point is this. We have to stop looking at protein as this universal, one-size-fits-all prescription. The blanket advice to just eat more protein is fundamentally flawed because it totally ignores the reality of how different people actually live their lives. Dietary guidance is only truly effective when it takes both your age and, critically, your physical activity levels into account. This breakdown lays out exactly who needs what based on the science. If you're a standard, sedentary adult, meaning you don't engage in rigorous, regular exercise, you fall into the less or targeted category. You're the prime candidate for experiencing the longevity benefits of protein restriction. On the other hand, if you're a highly active athlete, your protein needs remain high to support recovery. Furthermore, there are specific demographics that absolutely require more: older adults who are actively fighting age-related muscle loss, and pregnant women who have vital high nutritional needs for fetal development. It is all about matching your intake to your specific biological demand. Which brings us to our final thought. The next time you're walking down that grocery aisle and you intuitively reach for that heavily marketed protein-fortified snack, I want you to pause and ask yourself a question. Based on how you actually moved your body today, are you feeding your muscles, or are you just feeding your aging process? Knowing the difference might just be one of the most important decisions you make for your long-term health.